grade 12 learners, welcome to today's geography lesson. My name is Nomthandazo Malembe. This lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Parama Research and Development. So today, learners, we are focusing on our paper 1 revision. But before we start with our lesson, I just want us to go through our lesson objective. So by the end of this lesson, learners, you should be able to identify the structure for paper 1 and also to focus on the following topics. We will be looking at your climate and weather questions. Secondly, will be your geomorphology questions. And then lastly, we'll be looking at your map work questions. As I've said that by the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify the structure for your paper 1. So your marker allocation for your paper is 150 and the time allocation or your duration is 3 hours. So to further break down this 150, you will have 2 sections in your question paper. It's section A and your section B. Under your section A, you should expect 2 questions. Your question 1 is climate and weather questions that will give you 60 marks. Your question 2 is geomorphology questions that will give you another 60 marks. Then you move to your section B. Under your section B, it's your question 3, which is your map work questions, and it will give you 30 marks. So for your further breakdown of the questions, under your section A, question 1, we said you should expect any questions from your climate and weather. Remember, the examiner can pick any subtopic under this topic, which is your climate and weather. So for your questions, you will have the short objective questions with the total of 15 marks. Remember your short objective questions, these are your one-word questions. They may come as a multiple choice, where you are given 4 options and you're supposed to choose 1, or you may be given column A and column B. Remember now with column A and column B, you are only given 2 choices to choose from. It's between Y or Z or X and Z. Then it can be whereby you need to choose from the brackets the correct answer to make the statement correct. Remember your questions, they come as figure 1.1, figure 1.2, figure 1.3, figure 1.4, and figure 1.5. So your short objective questions you should expect from figure 1.1 and your figure 1.2. If figure 1.1 has 8 questions, meaning from 1.1.1 up to 1.1.8, your figure 1.2 will have 7 questions. It will be from 1.2.1 up until 1.2.7. Remember again, it is advisable that you start by putting down or writing down the numbering so that you make sure that you did not skip any a number and your answers are in order. Then once you are done with your short objective questions, you will then move to the longer questions. So the longer questions will start from your figure 1.3, 1.4, and your 1.5. Each of the figure is carrying 15 marks. That's where you should expect questions whereby you're supposed now to define, or you are given questions, the 2 times 2 questions, whereby you're supposed to account or you're supposed to explain or describe. Then amongst these 3 subtopics, you will be given also in that 3 figures, there will be 1 paragraph question. The paragraph question, remember, you're supposed to give full 4 responses for you to claim all that 8 marks. Then you move to your question 2. Under your question 2, it's where you should expect questions from geomorphology. Again, when you are studying, you are not allowed to be selective because you will never know which sections will the examiner be focusing on. So to be on a safe side, revise everything. So under your geomorphology, again, the strategy is still the same. You will have your question 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, and 2.5. Those are the figures. Same thing applies with your question 2. Figure 2.1 and 2.2 is where you should expect your short objective questions. The other one, if it has 7 questions, the other one will have 8 questions. But in total, you will have 15. Then again, you will have three figures where there is short, medium, and your long questions. Again, you will have one paragraph question. Then the rest of the question will come as your 3 times 2 or as your 2 times 2. Then your question 1, remember, it's carrying 60 marks. Your question 2, another 60 marks. You now add 120. Then to add for the 150, you then move to section B, which is question 3. Under your question 3, you should expect questions from map work. Remember, map work carrying 30 marks. So to further break down these 30 marks, you are given map skills as well as calculations. They are grouped and they will give you 10 marks. Then after, you move to figure 3.2. Remember 3.1, that's your map skills and your calculation. Then your map interpretation is in figure 3.2, it's 12 marks. You are interpreting any question from climate and weather and any question from geomorphology. So it's 12 marks. Then after, you move to the last figure, which is your figure 3.3. Figure 3.3, that's where you should expect questions from your GIS. So GIS, it carries 8 marks. Then altogether, it gives you 30 marks. Then you now have the full 150 marks that is allocated for your question paper. So we're going to go through the examination tips. Now we are talking when you already received the question paper on the day of your examination. So the first thing, you need to read the instructions carefully. Remember, each and every question paper, it has instructions and information that you are given. So in your page 2, that's where you will find this information and instructions. It is guiding you on what you're supposed to expect in the question paper and how you're supposed to answer them. Then they also remind you of the things that you should do and of the things that you shouldn't do. Then you will be given 10 minutes reading time. Remember, in that 10 minutes reading time, you are not allowed to write anything but to read through the question paper. So make sure you start from the instructions. Then after, you go to question 1, question 2, as well as question 3. So it gives you the opportunity just to go through the questions before you start answering. Then also, when you are now told to start writing at 9 o'clock or whatever time that will be allocated, you need to read the questions twice. Read the question and then read it again so that you gain more understanding of the question. Maybe sometimes you can even translate the question into your own language for you to better understand the question. Then after, you need to underline the keyword. When we are saying underline the keywords, if the question is saying identify or state, that's where you should give your one-word answer. And further, you need to underline again the action words or the verbs. If they are saying identify the front labeled A and B, so the front labeled A and B, it becoming your action words. What are you identifying? So it gives you an understanding on how to structure your answer. For example, if they are saying account for the formation of cumulonimbus cloud, so that account, you need to give a full explanation. So it's your keyword that you're supposed to account, and then you know that you need to give a full answer. Then your action words, so that it can help you to understand the question better. Again, you are accounting or you are identifying. What are you identifying? What are you accounting for? Then you need to make sure that you know the mark allocation, what it means. As I'm saying, the question might give you account for the formation of cumulonimbus cloud. Then they give you a mark allocation of 2 times 2. So you're supposed to understand what that mark allocation means. It means you need to give 2 responses that will give you 2 marks each, and the total will be 4 marks. Sometimes you will write only one answer, then you are losing 2 marks unaware because you did not pay attention on the mark allocation. Then lastly, you need to study the resources, which is the diagram as well as the infographic that you are given, because some of the answers can be in there. So make sure that you practice all these exam tips when you get into the exam venue. You will see that it's going to be very much helpful. Then we begin with the business for today. As we said, we are preparing for our paper 1 revision. The question 1, we've already mentioned that it's where you're supposed to expect any question from your climate and weather. So refer to the sketch showing a pollution dome. Remember, we said you need to read the instructions. So not only the instructions on page 2, but each and every figure, it has the instructions. So you are told to refer on the sketch, which is this one, that is showing a pollution dome. Before you even read the questions, you're now aware that the questions are based on pollution dome. Then we said you need to study the diagram or the resources that you are given. So here you're supposed to ask yourself, what is pollution dome first? Then identify what are the things that you see on the diagram. You see there is an invention, you see there is a pollution dome, and then you see the shape there, and then you are also given the cold and another cold this side. So let us go through the questions. Your first question, give 2 reasons why pollution dome are common in most cities. You are already told 2, and your mark allocation, it is saying 2 times 1. It means you need to give 2 reasons. Each reason will give you 1 mark. Then 1.5.2, give evidence from the sketch that suggests that this pollution dome is occurring at night. So what are the things that you see in the diagram that will give you an evidence that this is during the night? Then number 3, you suggest a reason why pollution dome are more concentrated at night. Then you're looking at the mark allocation. It is saying 1 times 2, meaning you need to give 1 response that will give you 2 marks. Then number 4, how do pollution domes increase temperature in a state? So it all lies in understanding what is the pollution dome. Then the next question is 1.5.5 to 1.5.6. Your 1.5.5, it says explain why the negative impact of pollution domes on people are greater in winter. Then again, explain becomes your, you need to explain them, well, you need to underline so that you are able to explain. What are you explaining? Why the negative impact of the pollution dome on people are greater in winter. You see that the question did not indicate, as you are explaining, how many answers or how many responses you're supposed to give. But by looking at the mark allocation, you see that it is 2 times 2 that will give you 4 marks, which means you need to give 2 responses. Then your 1.5.6, provide sustainable strategies that can reduce the occurrence of pollution dome in our city. Another 2 times 2. So as I've said, if you don't know what is pollution dome is, which means it's going to be difficult again to answer all these questions because they are all based on the pollution dome. So now that we have went through the question, you are now aware what the examiner has asked. So now it is time to answer. So we're going to start with our first question, which is question 1.5.1 up to question 1.5.4. Then after, we move to the next two questions. So I'm going to give you 6 minutes for these 4 questions, and then after 6 minutes, we will proceed to your 1.5.5 and your 1.5.6. So your 6 minutes starts now. Right? I believe that we are all done. So in our next question, your 1.5.5 and your 1.5.6, I'm going to give you another 4 minutes. Then after 4 minutes, you will be able to proceed to the solutions or the corrections. Remember, when you are doing the corrections, make sure that you mark yourself so that you can identify these are the questions you were able to answer, and these are the questions that were difficult for you, so that you can further discuss them. So your 4 minutes starts now. Right? Grade 12, I believe we are all done. So with our corrections, our figure 1.5.1, you give 2 reasons why pollution dome are common in most cities. So in most cities, you do understand that they have a lot of vehicles. So if they have a lot of vehicles, because of the emission that is being taken out every day, so the influx of motor vehicles, the influx, it means there are so many cars in the urban cities, as well as the exhaust fumes from the motor vehicles. Remember, some of the drivers, they do not service their cars, so therefore they emit every day. The industrial activities, remember in the cities, that's where there are more of the industries, and these industries are operating day and night. So the industry and the industrial activities in the city that emit a large amount of air pollution. Remember, there are products that are being produced in those activities, and they are using very big machines to produce those products. So it means there is a lot of smoke again that is taken out. Then we're also looking at the construction activities. Remember, there are more construction activities in the cities. They could be constructing some of the buildings, they could be constructing roads. So that dust particles, it also becomes a fact in the pollution dome. So these are the reasons why there is more pollution dome in the cities. They are most common in the cities. It's because of the activities that are being done. Most of those activities from the industrial as well as the construction, and because there are more industries as well as the construction that is taking place, it is also adding into the number of cars in the road. Remember, again, our public transport is not efficient or is not trustworthy. So most of the people, they prefer to use their own cars. So again, it is adding on the number of cars that are on the road. Then your 1.5.2, you give evidence from the sketch that suggests that this pollution dome occurs at night. So number 1, there is this cold, then you're looking at the position of the inversion. So number 1, the cooler temperatures are relatively low at night, as you can see. Remember, we said you need to study the diagram and see what are the clues that you can use in that diagram. Then again, the pollution dome is below the inversion layer. As you can see, there is an inversion layer here, and the pollution dome is below. Those are the reasons why it is during the day. Remember, during the day, it is closer to the surface. Then your 1.5.3 suggests a reason why pollution dome are more concentrated at night. Why are they more concentrated at night? Number 1, there are no convection current to disperse the pollutants vertically. Remember, during the day, because the temperatures are high, the warm air rises, so the pollutants are able to disperse vertically. Then the descending air is stronger at night. When you're talking about the descending air, we're talking about the cold sinking air, which is stronger at night because the temperatures at night are lower as during the day. Then we're looking at our 1.5.4. How do pollution domes increase temperature in a city? Remember, we talk about the activities and the number of cars in the cities. So number one, we're looking at the greenhouse effect is generated by the pollutants that are being trapped. Then secondly, we're looking at the pollutants in the city that forms the artificial clouds and traps and the terrestrial radiation, which is causing a greenhouse effect. So most of all, it's because of the greenhouse effect that will increase the temperature in the city. Then we're looking at our next question. In our next question, 1.5.5, explain why the negative impacts of the pollution dome on people are greater in winter. So number one, it is more dominant in winter due to the subsiding colder air. The air is sinking, which is the cold air, that produces your invasion conditions. Then secondly, we're looking at the pollutants that are trapped over the city. Remember, the cold air, it is sinking. It is sinking, which means the pollutants, again, are going to be trapped inside the city. And that's in the direct contact with the people. So if the pollutants are trapped within the city, now they are in a direct contact with the people, then people will be affected. Then we're also looking at the less convection currents that are removed the pollutant into the upper atmosphere. Then we're looking at our question 1.5.6. Provide the sustainable strategies that can reduce the occurrence of pollution dome in the cities. Remember, we have put more of the responses because the very same question, you might get it as a paragraph question. So number one, to reduce the number of private vehicles. Remember, I said there are so many people who are using their private cars. Then you will find they are all from the same area and they are all working in the same area again. Instead of having 5 cars, they can introduce the lift clubs so that it's only 1 car that is on the road so that they can reduce the number of these private vehicles. Then the decentralization of industries. Remember, again, we said the smoke emission in the industries, it also causes the pollution dome because they pollute every day. So decentralization, remember, we are taking the very same industries, then we decentralize or we build them in those outside cities or in those areas where they need development. So in doing that, it means there will not be many industries in one area because some will move into another areas. So decentralization of industries from the city to the surrounding countryside. Your countryside preferable to be a rural area or on the outskirts. And also to create more parks as well as the green belt. Remember to reduce the pollution. We're supposed to reduce we try and reduce the temperatures again. So how are we going to reduce the temperatures? If there is more of vegetation as compared to artificial, that way it will be able to be reduced. So to create more parks as well as the green belt in the cities, and also to plant more trees. This is very important that each and every area is supposed to have trees so that it can absorb the carbon dioxide. The green policy to be included in all legislation. So when we're talking about the legislation, we're talking about the rules or the regulations in each and every city or in each and every company that they're supposed to practice this green policy. Then the awareness as well as the education campaign on the green policies. Remember, people, they cannot practice something that they are not aware of. So there's supposed to be an awareness, and there's supposed to be educational, they're supposed to be taught on how they're supposed to achieve these green policies. Then we're looking at the household activities in terms of what do we do. We sometimes ban things unnecessary. We're talking about when we are cooking at home, whatever activities that we do at home that might lead into air pollution. Then also to emphasize on the rooftop gardens, because they can also reduce the temperatures. Then we're looking at our next question. We are still on climate and weather. So now refer to the sketch below showing South African berg winds. So now it's supposed to come to your mind, what is berg winds? On which season do berg winds occur? Then you're also looking at the diagram. You have number one with the H, which is the high pressure, and we can see there is a blue as well as the red when you are going into the surface, and you see there are mountains here, and then there is a berg wind. You are given a low atmospheric pressure. You are given number two with the L, which is the low pressure, the high atmospheric pressure, clouds evaporate, hot weather, blue skies. So let's see what questions do we have. The first one, you explain the concept berg winds. So in explaining, remember you give a full detail. Then secondly, what is the role of the pressure cell at 1? Your pressure cell at 1. What is the role of this pressure cell at 1 in the formation of berg winds? Again, mark allocation, it's 1 times 1, it's one answer that will give you 1 mark. Then 1.4.3, give an account for the atmospheric conditions experienced at sketch at 2 on the sketch. Again, give an account, it means give a full explanation. Then looking at the mark allocation, which is 2 times 2, which means you need to give 2 responses that will give you 4 marks. Then your 1.4.4, it's a paragraph question. In a paragraph of not more than 8 lines, discuss the impact. So you discuss the impact of berg winds on the physical, which is the natural environment. 4 times 2, which means 4 responses that's supposed to give you 8 marks. Remember again, go through all the questions first, you underline, and after you are done with the questions, you now aware what are the questions, and then again you study the diagram again, and also especially on these questions that you're supposed to answer according to the sketch. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes because there is a paragraph question, and then after 10 minutes we will be able to proceed with our solutions. Right? Girls and boys, I hope we are all done. Don't forget to mark as we are doing the corrections. So your 1.4.1, you explain the concept berg winds. Remember the berg winds, these are the only winds that we said this the hot as well as dry wind. They are hot and dry wind blowing down the escarpment from the high central plateau to the coast. So most of all, the hot and dry, they are blowing from the escarpment, they are blowing down the escarpment. Where are they coming from? From the high central plateau to the coast. Then the second one, what is the role of the pressure cell at 1 in the formation of berg winds? Remember this, this low pressure or this pressure cell is a high pressure that we call a Kalahari. So the air blows from the cell towards the coast. Then your 1.5.3, you give an account for the atmospheric condition experienced at 2 on the sketch. So as you are given an account for the atmospheric condition, you can see that they are using a red color. It's number 2. And there is a low pressure. So therefore, we're going to refer to the hot weather as well as the blue skies. So to give an account on the atmospheric condition that is experienced at number 2 on the sketch. Number 1, the air results in an air being heated up as it descends to the plateau, your dry adiabatic lapse rate. Then the air moves downhill and is compressed as it warms. Then looking at your blue clear skies, there is no formation of clouds as the air is descending or the air is sinking. And also, the air is not rising to form the clouds. They are clear skies. And also, because remember again, this is happening all in winter and there are stable air conditions due to the subsiding air. Then your 1.4.4, this was the paragraph question whereby you were supposed to discuss the impact of berg winds on the physical, which is the natural environment. The first one, they dry out the soil. Remember, they are hot and dry, and they occur in winter. In winter, the air is already dry. The vegetation is already dry. So therefore, they then dry out the soil and remove its moisture. Then secondly, we're looking at it causes the spread of fires. Remember, they are hot and dry, and they are descending down the escarpment. As they are descending down the escarpment, they are reaching the conditions that are already dry. So therefore, there are possibilities of the fires because of the dry conditions. Then the natural bush as well as the grazing may be lost. How it may be lost? Because of the veld fires. Then the animals that will lose their natural habitat, we're talking about the wild animal here, due to the spread of fires. Remember, all your answers, they're supposed to be on the physical or natural environment. So you cannot say people will lose their lives because it has nothing to do with the environment. Then we're looking at the vegetation that is going to dry out. So make sure that all your answers are within the physical or the natural environment. Then we're looking at our question 2. In our question 2, it's where you should expect questions from geomorphology. Remember again, the examiner can pick any subtopic under geomorphology. So here you are given another form of your short objective questions. Remember, we said they may come as a multiple choice, they may come as a column A or column B, or where you are given to choose from the brackets. So for now, you are given your column A and your column B. So now it is much easier because you are only comparing two answers, other than if you are given from A to F that you're supposed to choose from. So you know for sure the answer is within the two. But then again, you are not allowed to write it Y or Z. You're supposed to stick to one. So complete the statement in column A with the option in column B. You write down Y or Z next to the question numbers. Remember, I said it is important that you start by putting down your numbering so that you make sure that you did not skip any and your numbering are in order. Your 2.2.1, 2.2.2, 2.2.3, 2.2.4, 2.2.5, your 2.2.6 and your 2.2.7. Then looking at these questions, they are based on the types of rivers, they are based on your drainage basin. So I'm going to give you 7 minutes so that you have 1 minute per question. Read the statement in column A and then you match it with the concept in column B. So after 7 minutes, we will be able to proceed to our solutions. Right, grade 12, I hope we are all done. Again, do not forget to mark so that you can see where you were correct and where you went wrong. So our first question, your 2.2.1, high-lying area that separates two drainage basins is known as. Remember, we do have another high-lying area that separates the two streams or tributaries. So you need to be careful as we are reading. Remember, we said read the questions twice. So your high-lying area that separates the two drainage basin is known as. Remember, it is known as a watershed, which is that. Your interflow is the high-lying area separating the two streams or tributaries. Then your watershed is your high-lying area that is separating the two drainage basins. Then your 2.2.2, the point where two or more streams meet, we call them a confluence. Remember, at that point when these two streams are meeting, it's a confluence. Then your 2.2.3, the point where the river enters the steep is known as. Remember, we are saying all the rivers, they end into the sea. So in that point of the end of the river, then we call it a river mouth. You remember that the river begins at the source and end at the mouth. Then your 2.2.4, the upper limit of groundwater is the upper limit of groundwater is known as. It is known as your water table because we are looking at where the groundwater is limited to, or we are looking at the amount. So it's the water table. Then your 2.2.5, the process whereby water seeps, remember, seeps or being absorbed underground is known as your Z, which is your infiltration. Remember, the runoff, the water is running over the surface. So when water is being seeped or it's being absorbed underground, we call it that process an infiltration. Then 2.2.6, the area drained by a river system, by a river and tributaries is known as. We are looking at the drainage basin. Remember, the very same question, you can even get it as define what is a drainage basin. An area drained by a river and its tributaries. Then you have 2 months. Then your 2.2.7, a river that originates in the areas of a high rainfall but flows throughout the dry areas is known as, remember, it's an exotic river. It originates in the areas of a high rainfall, but now it flows on the dry areas. That is your exotic. Your episodic, you remember, this is the river that we get after a heavy showers or after a heavy rainfall, and it only lasts between your 3 to 5 days, then it's dry out because there was water that was poured where there was an open space. Then by now you have the total of 7. Then we're looking at our next question, which is still on geomorphology. You refer to the map and fact file below on the Olifants River catchment region in Mpumalanga and Limpopo province. So you are given the map there, and then you are also given the extract. So in that extract, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to read through the extract on your own, and then after 3 minutes, we will then proceed to the questions. So your 3 minutes start now. I believe that we are all done. So let us look, what questions are we having? The first question, with reference to the map. Remember the importance of studying or reading through the sources that you are given. So with reference to the map, so you underline that you're supposed to refer to the map. You name 2 tributaries of the Olifants River. 2 times 1, which means per tributary, it will give you 1 mark, 1 mark. Then second question, you name 1 province across which the Olifants River catchment region spans. Or if you don't understand what span is, it spreads. Then number 3, you suggest a reason why the Olifants River dries up. As you suggest, remember you need to give a full explanation. Suggest a reason why the Olifants River dry up for months at a time. 1 times 2. 1 answer that is going to give you 2 marks. Then number 4, you identify and explain. Identify and explain 3 ways in which people have negatively impacted on the Olifants drainage basin. 3 times 2. Then number 5, which is 2.5.5, you suggest 2 strategies that can be put in place to ensure the river discharge remains above 200 million cubic meters to enable the lower stages of the Olifants River to support life in the Kruger Park. So 2 times 2. I'm going to give you another 10 minutes again, and then after 10 minutes, we will be able to discuss our corrections. Right? Girls and boys, I believe we are all ready for the corrections. So looking at our first question, whereby with reference to the map, you are supposed to name 2 tributaries of the Olifants River. We have the Ellens River, we have the Wild River, the Klein Olifants River, or the Stilford River. So any of these tributaries, it's 1 mark, 1 mark. Then secondly, you name 1 province across which the Olifants River catchment region spreads. It is spreading through Mpumalanga as well as Limpopo. Then your 2.5.3, you suggest a reason why the Olifants River dries up for months at a time. So the rainfall in South Africa is low and it's unreliable, especially when it comes to other provinces. There are those ones who receive a seasonal rainfall, and there are those ones who receive rain throughout the year. So in South Africa, the rainfall is not reliable, and it is also low in some of the provinces. Then we're looking at the mining as well as the agricultural activities that use up a lot of water. Remember, in the mining, they use water to cool down the machines. In the agricultural activities, they use water again to manufacture and process the products. So the water is being used a lot. So therefore, these rivers, they sometimes dry up because we already mentioned that the rainfall is not enough. Then your poor drainage basin management policies, and also we're looking at the Kalahari high pressure that is dominant over the area in winter. So remember, the Kalahari, they are dry also, and the cold air that is sinking. So there is no cumulonimbus, there is no formation of clouds, which means if there is no formation of clouds, there will be no rainfall. So therefore, this will result into no rainfall or little rainfall in winter, and that will make this river to dry up sometimes. Then the invasion layer that prevents moist air from penetrating into the plateau, which is leading again to a little or no rainfall. Then we're looking at your 2.5.4. You identify and explain. Identify and explain. The three ways in which people negatively impacted on the Oliphant drainage basin. We're looking at the mining as well as the agriculture. We've already identified. So mining and agriculture, you are identifying. In explaining how are they negatively impacted on the Oliphant's drainage basin. Your pollution, the pollution of water through the harmful chemicals as well as the toxic waste and pesticides. Remember, we're talking about the mining as well as your agriculture. Also, it can lead into acid and mine drainage. And also, we're looking at the overgrazing. Remember, overgrazing is going to expose our soil. So if our soil is already being exposed, now it will be leading into soil erosion. So it's going to increase the deposition and impact on the river silt content. Then we're looking at our 2.5.5. You suggest two strategies that can be put in place to ensure that the river discharge remains above 200 million cubic meters to enable the lower stages of the Oliphants River to support life in the Kruger Park, another 2x2. We're talking about the wetlands restoration as well as the health programs in the wetlands. Then we're also talking about to provide a useful waste storage as well as the release system. And then the restriction in number in the future of dams built in this catchment area. And also we're looking at the regular release of water from the dam in the rainy season. So any 2x2. Then we're coming to our question 3, which is our section B. Remember, in our section B, it's where you should expect questions from your map work. Your figure 3.1, map skills and calculation. Your figure 3.2, it's your map interpretation. And your figure 3.3, that's your GIS. So you are given the map of Howick. Even if you don't have this map in your school, there are pictures that are attached so that you can be able to answer the question. So the questions are from the map of Howick. Always you are given the location, the map of South Africa with the location of that area so that you can be familiar with the area. Then you are given a general information. That general information will give you further information about the area because sometimes you find that it is your first time hearing about that area. So with going through the information that you are given, it will also help you to familiarize yourself with the area. So they are starting with the coordinates, then they give you a little description about the area. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to read through the general information of Howick, and then after 2 minutes, we'll then proceed to the questions. Right? Looking at our first question, you refer to the spot height 1030 in block E3. So you are already given block A, D, and E, 3 and 4. So for this time, we are looking at block E3 and spot height 784 in block D4. Then the first question, what is the difference in height? What is the difference in height between the spot height 1030 in block E3 and spot height 784 in block D4 on the topographic map extract? So 1 minute, and then after 1 minute, we'll then be proceeding to our solution. Then we move to the next question. Right? Remember, when the question is asking about the difference in height, it means you need to separate the bigger height to the smaller height so that you remain with one height or with that difference between the two. So our spot height 1030 is bigger than 784. So therefore, it's 1030 meters because the spot heights are measured in meters minus your 784. It's going to give you 246 meters. Remember again, use a calculator so that you get an accurate answer. So for difference in height, you only have 1 mark. Then we proceed with our next question. In our next question, you calculate the distance between the spot height 1030 in block E3 and spot height 784 in block D4 on the topographic map extract in meters. Then you are given a mark allocation of 2 times 1, which means you need to do 2 things that will give you 1 mark each. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and then after 2 minutes, we proceed to the solution. Right, girls and boys, as you were asked to calculate the distance. So as you are calculating the distance, you are given the formula of the map distance is equal to, your actual distance is equal to map distance times scale. So what happened? You need to measure these 2 spot heights. These are the 2 spot heights that we are given. Remember, we use a 30 centimeter ruler and we measure with centimeters, then we convert in what the answer is supposed to be. For example, here it's supposed to be on meters. Remember, you're going to start at the spot height, which is the dot, up until the next, which is another a sign for the spot height, which is a point or a dot. Always we start from 0 up until the next. Then you're supposed to get 3,3 centimeter. Remember, you are also given 3 options. If it's 3,3, then you can be allowed to say 3,2 or 3,4 because we are given a 3 range. So because we are using a topographic map and our answer is supposed to be on meters, so 3,3, it's 1 mark times your 500. Why 500? Because we need to use the scale of a 500 taken from the scale of a topographic map, which is 1:50,000. So therefore, again, use a calculator. 3 times 3, 3,3 times 500 will give you 1,550 meters because our answer is supposed to be in meters. Then you have that 2 marks. Then after, we move to our C. With our C, use the answer in question 3.1.3 to 3.1.4 to calculate the average gradient between your spot height 1030 in block E3 and spot height 784 in block D4 on the topographic map extract. Another 2 times 1, which means 2 things that you're supposed to do there. You already calculated in 3.1.3 when they were asking the difference in height. Then you already calculated the distance in 3.1.4. Then what now you're supposed to do? Use those answers to calculate your average gradient. I'm going to give you 3 minutes, and then after 3 minutes, we'll then proceed to our solutions. Right? Looking there at our solutions, remember we already calculated our vertical interval, which is the difference in height, that it is 246 meters. And we already calculated our horizontal equivalent, which is the distance, and our answer was 1,650 meters. So to write the correct answer in a correct form, or to make the fraction to be correct as according to the formula. So you cannot write 1,650 at a vertical interval and write 246 at the horizontal equivalent. You will then lose this mark. So make sure that the answer that you got in the vertical interval, it goes to the vertical interval. The answer that you got in the horizontal equivalent, which is the distance, it goes to the distance. Then after that, you then divide both sides with your vertical interval, which is U246 over U246. Then after, you do this manually. Do not put this fraction over your calculator because you're going to get a wrong answer again. Your 246 divided by 246, it gives you 1. Your 1,650 divided by 246, it will give you 6,7. Then after, because we are calculating a gradient and the answer of gradient is supposed to be on a ratio scale, you then say 1:6,7 to make a ratio scale. So that's how you get that 2 marks, and that's how gradient is now broken into 3 questions. You first calculate the vertical interval, which is your difference in height alone, and then after you calculate the distance, and then the third question will be asking you to use the answer of the vertical interval and the answer of your distance to calculate the gradient. Then we're looking at our next question. In our next question, a cross-section of the slope between the spot height 1030 in block E3 and spot height 784 in block D4 on the topographic map extract is. So here you need to look at the contour lines. Which cross-section does it represent this? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and then after 2 minutes, we'll be able to proceed to the solution. Right? Girls and boys, we are looking there at our cross-section. The correct answer is A. So why A? You see there is a spot height 1030, and here is our spot height 1784. Then we're looking at how the contour lines are being placed. So you can see that it is A that is the one that is displaying or that is showing the cross-section between these 2 points. Then we proceed to our next question. In our next question, you give a reason now. Why I'm saying it is A. Mark allocation, it's 1 times 2. So I'm going to give you just 1 minute, and then after 1 minute, we proceed to the solution. Right? Looking there at our reason, we are looking at the contour lines that are denser at the top, as you can see, because of the cultivated land also, and it is steeper at the bottom, which is a convex slope. Then there is why. Remember, the convex slope, it comes at the top. Then we're looking at our summary. In summarizing on what we have learned so far, we have looked into the topic based on your climate and weather, and we have looked into the question based on your geomorphology, and then lastly, we have looked into the questions based on the map work. So to give you the preview of our next lesson, we will still be preparing for our paper 1, which is the final revision. So it will still be based on your paper 1. We're gonna attack different topics from what we're doing today. So we have came to an end of our lesson today. Hopefully you have enjoyed the lesson, but most of all, I hope you have learned. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next lesson.